The important thing for harvest is the harmonious balance between the various energy centers of the mind-body-spirit complex. Each mind-body-spirit complex has its own patterns of activation and its own rhythms of awakening. The entity, before incarnation, dwells in the appropriate, shall we say, place in time-space. The true color type of this location will be dependent upon the entity's needs. Those entities, for instance, which, being wanderers, have the green, blue, or indigo true color core of mind-body-spirit complex will have rested therein. Entrance into incarnation requires the activation of the indigo ray or etheric body. For this is the form maker. The young physical mind-body-spirit complex has the 7 energy centers potentiated before the birthing process. There are also analogs in time-space of these energy centers corresponding to the 7 energy centers in each of the 7 true color densities. Thus, in the microcosm exists all the experience that is prepared. It is as though the infant contains the universe. The patterns of activation of an entity of high seniority will undoubtedly move with some rapidity to the green ray level, which is the springboard to primary blue. There is always some difficulty in penetrating blue primary energy, for it requires that which our people have in great paucity, that is, honesty. Blue ray is the ray of free communication with self and with other self. Having accepted that an harvestable or nearly harvestable entity will be working from this green ray springboard, one may then posit that the experiences in the remainder of the incarnation will be focused upon activation of the primary blue ray of freely given communication, of indigo ray, that of freely shared intelligent energy, and if possible, moving through this gateway the penetration of violet ray intelligent infinity. This may be seen to be manifested by a sense of the consecrate or hallowed nature of everyday creations and activities. Upon the bodily complex death, as we call this transition, upon realization of its state, the entity will immediately return to the indigo form-maker body and rest therein until the proper future placement is made. Here we have the anomaly of harvest. Those who, finishing a cycle of experience, demonstrate various grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion most comfortable to their mind-body-spirit complexes. In harvest, then the entity will transfer its indigo body into violet ray manifestation as seen in true color yellow. This is for the purpose of gauging the harvestability of the entity. In time of harvest, this process is always guarded or watched by harvesters, those nurturing beings who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless have the distortion towards active service. The fruit is formed as it will be, but there is some supervision necessary to ensure that this bounty is placed as it should be without the bruise or the blemish. There are those of 3 levels watching over harvest. The first level is planetary, and that which may be called angelic. This type of guardian includes the mind-body-spirit complex totality or higher self of an entity, and those inner plane entities which have been attracted to this entity through its inner seeking. The second class of those who ward this process are those of the Confederation, who have the honor duty of standing in the small places at the edge of the steps of light, so that those entities being harvested will not, no matter how confused or unable to make contact with their higher self, stumble and fall away for any reason other than the strength of the light. These Confederation entities catch those who stumble and set them aright, so that they may continue into the light. The third group watching over this process is that group we call the Guardians. This group wanders in this octave from the octave above our own. These beings come to aid our octave in its logo's completion and serve in this manner as light-bringers. These guardians provide the precise emissions of light in exquisitely fastidious disseminations of discrimination, so that the precise light vibration of each entity may be ascertained. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly but less understandably, light love. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. This entity may have barely reached third density, or may be very, very close to the ending of the third density light-love distortion vibratory complex. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave of intensifying light-love then experience a major cycle, during which the opportunities are many, for the discovery of the distortions which are inherent in each entity and therefore the lessening of these distortions. Thus the harvest is automatic in that those harvested will respond according to that which is unchangeable during harvest. That is the violet ray emanation. However, these helpers are around to ensure a proper harvesting so that each entity may have the fullest opportunity to express its violet ray selfhood. After this anomalous activity has been carefully completed, the entity will move into indigo body again and be placed in the correct true color locus in space-time and time-space, at which time the healings and learned teachings necessary shall be completed and further incarnation needs determined. There are 3 major cycles of this nature, during which those who have progressed may be harvested. At the end of 3 major cycles, that is approximately between 75 and 76,000 years, all are harvested regardless of their progress. For during that time the planet itself has moved through the useful part of that dimension and begins to cease being useful for the lower levels of vibration within that density. The original desire is that entities seek and become one. If entities can do this in a moment, they may go forward in a moment, and thus, were this to occur in a major cycle, indeed, the third density planet would be vacated at the end of that cycle. However, it is more toward the median or mean of the third density developments throughout the one infinite universe. There is a small harvest after the first cycle, the remainder having significantly polarized, the second cycle having a much larger harvest. The remainder being even more significantly polarized, the third cycle culminating the process, and the harvest being completed. Among planetary harvests, which yield an harvest of mind-body-spirit complexes, approximately 10% are negative, approximately 60% are positive, and approximately 30% are mixed, with nearly all harvest being positive. In the event of mixed harvest, it is almost unknown for the majority of the harvest to be negative. When a planet moves strongly towards the negative, there is almost no opportunity for harvestable positive polarization, for the ability to polarize positively requires a certain degree of self-determination. The fourth density is as regularized in its approach as the striking of a clock upon the hour. This density is a vibrational spectrum of its true color green ray. The space-time continuum of our solar system had spiraled our planetary sphere into this fourth dimension vibration. This caused the planetary sphere molded by these new vibratory fields and the planetary sphere itself to electromagnetically realign, its vortices of reception of the instreaming of cosmic forces expressing themselves as vibrational webs so that the Earth will be thus fourth density magnetized, as we might call it. Earth's material is still quite confused due to the society memory complexes embedded in its consciousness. It has not made an easy transition to the vibrations which beckon. Therefore, it is still fetched with some inconvenience, due to the energies of the thought forms of our peoples, which disturb the orderly constructs of energy patterns within Earth's spirals of energy, which increases entropy and unusable heat. This caused our planetary sphere to have some ruptures in its outer garment while making itself appropriately magnetized for fourth density. The concepts involved to explain the mechanism of the increase of unusable heat, or what we call global warming, are somewhat difficult to express in our language. However, we shall attempt to explain to the subject. If an entity is not in harmony with its circumstances, it feels a burning within. The temperature of the physical vehicle does not yet rise, only the heat of the temper or the tears, as we may describe this disharmony. However, if an entity persists for a long period of our space-time in feeling this emotive heat and disharmony, the entire body complex will begin to resonate to this disharmony, and the disharmony will then show up as the cancer or other degenerative conditions from what we call health. When an entire planetary system of peoples and cultures repeatedly experiences disharmony on a great scale, the earth under the feet of these entities shall begin to resonate with this disharmony. Due to the nature of the physical vehicle, disharmony shows up as a blockage of growth or an uncontrolled growth, since the primary function of a mind-body-spirit complex's bodily complex is growth and maintenance. In the case of our planet, the purpose of the planet is the maintenance of orbit and the proper location or orientation with regards to other cosmic influences. In order to have this occurring properly, the interior of the planet is hot and molten in physical terms. Thus, instead of uncontrolled growth, we begin to experience uncontrolled heat and its expansive consequences. This was the planetary adjustment. The spiritual configuration, as well as mental biases of our peoples, have been responsible for these distortions of the body complex of our planetary sphere. The sphere upon which we dwell is the third density, in its beingness of mind-body-spirit complexes. It is now in a space-time continuum, fourth density. This is causing a somewhat difficult harvest. The thought forms of our people during this transition period are such that the mind-body-spirit complexes of both individuals and societies are scattered throughout the spectrum. Instead of becoming able to grasp the needle, shall we say, and point the compass in one direction. Thus, the entry into the vibration of love is not effective with our present societal complex. Thus, the harvest shall be such that many will repeat the third density cycle. The energies of our wanderers, our teachers, and our adepts at this time are all bent upon increasing the harvest. However, there are few to harvest. Those who remain in fourth density upon this plane will be of the so-called positive orientation. Many will come from elsewhere, for it would appear that, with all the best efforts of the Confederation, which includes those from our people's inner planes, inner civilizations, and those from other dimensions, the harvest will still be much less than this planetary sphere is capable of comfortably supporting in service. There was a sharp increase in the number of people, as we call mind-body-spirit complexes, whose vibrational potentials include the potential for fourth density understanding. Thus there seems to be, shall we say, a new breed. These are those incarnating for fourth density work. The fourth density entities which incarnate at this space-time are fourth density in the view of experience, but are incarnating in less dense vehicles due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of fourth density upon this plane. You may note that fourth density entities have a great abundance of compassion. These entities are those incarnating with what we may call a double body in activation. It will be noted that the entities birthing these fourth density entities experience a great feeling of, shall we say, the connection and the use of spiritual energies during pregnancy. This is due to the necessity for manifesting the double body. This transitional body is one which will be, shall we say, able to appreciate fourth density vibratory complexes as the in-streaming increases without the accompanying disruption of the third density body. However, this body will die, according to the necessity of third density mind-body-spirit complex distortions. If a third density entity were, shall we say, electrically aware of fourth density in full, the third density electrical fields would fail due to incompatibility. The purpose of such combined activation of mind-body-spirit complexes is that such entities are, to some extent, consciously aware of those fourth density understandings, which third density is unable to remember due to the forgetting. Thus, fourth density experience may be begun with the added attraction to an entity oriented towards service to others, of dwelling in a troubled third density environment and offering its love and compassion. The influxes of true color green energy complexes will more and more create the conditions in which the atomic structure of cells of bodily complexes is that of the density of love. The mind-body-spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be, and to some extent, are those of whom we spoke, and as harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. There was also a sharp increase in the short run of negatively oriented or polarized mind-body-spirit complexes and social complexes due to the polarizing conditions of the sharp delineation between fourth density characteristics and third density self-service orientation. At this time, the cosmic influxes are conducive to true color green, core particles being formed and material of this nature thus being formed. So there is another sphere forming, congruent to a great extent with yellow ray. However, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environments at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind-body-spirit complex types of energy distortions. At full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and inhabitable upon its own, and the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time, shall we say, to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full the fourth density planetary environment. There will be a greater spiritual gravity, thus causing a denser illusion. We do not have the instrumentation to measure spiritual gravity, but only to observe a few of its extreme manifestations. The creation of green ray density bodily complexes will be gradual and will take place beginning with our third density type of physical vehicle and, through the means of bisexual reproduction, become the fourth density body complexes by evolutionary processes. At this nexus, the green ray environment exists to a far greater extent in time-space than in space-time. You must see the Earth, as we call it, as being 7 Earths. There is red, orange, yellow, and there will soon be a completed green color vibratory locus for fourth density entities, which they will call Earth. It is of a denser nature, due to the rotational core atomic aspects of its material. Thus in fourth density the red, orange, and green energy nexuses of our planet will be activated while the yellow is in potentiation along with the blue and the indigo. Not only the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density will be in potentiation, but also the artifacts, thought forms, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. As the green ray cycle, or the density of love and understanding begins to take shape, the yellow ray plane or Earth, which we now enjoy in our dance, will cease to be inhabited for some period of space-time, since the early fourth density entity will not know precisely how to maintain the illusion that fourth density cannot be seen or determined from any instrumentation available to any third density. After the space-time necessary for fourth density entities to learn their ability to shield their density from that of third is learned, there will come a time when third density may again cycle on the yellow ray sphere.